I was welding one night, and all of a sudden my apron just falls off to the floor. I turned around, somebody had cut the strings off the back of my apron. Turned around and seen a guy I had never seen before. And he stands there, he looks at me, he says, "How many holes do you have in your sheets?" He said, "You have to have holes in your sheet so you can see through them when you have it over your head." Started at working at Norwood in, I believe it was April 1978, and they had three different divisions there: Fisher Body, Pontiac, and Chevrolet. I worked for all three at different times. They had some difficult jobs at Norwood now. My first job at Norwood was in the body shop. Norwood, everything went on seniority, so the body shop was the first place that new hires would work. They took us down there, and the guy told me, he said, "Stand within these yellow lines and don't move, because some of these things can crush you and kill you." They had these side frames that the body panels would come in on, and sparks flying, smoke everywhere. So it was pretty interesting part to work in. So I worked in the body shop for about a year and a half, welding different body parts. I had a big red beard back then. Of course, it's not red anymore, but we used to have to put this red sealant between the body panels. And then when you'd hit that, if you had too much sealant on there, if you hit it with your spot welder, it would pop and shoot out. I mean, it would shoot 100 feet. And if your face or your body, was in the way, that it would hit you. So I had burn holes in my beard, so I had to pretty much trim my beard, because I'd have burn holes in it where that spot welder would, spark, and sometimes it would cause your clothes to catch on fire. So as soon as I had enough seniority, I bumped to a different shift to get out of the body shop, because I didn't like the smoke, didn't like the welding, didn't like the heat. But people that worked in the body shop, they really enjoyed it. They had a real camaraderie. A lot of those guys, had worked in the body shop their whole career, on the Fisher Body side. I just didn't like all the smoke and the sparks. So as soon as I could, I bumped out of the body shop and bumped over to Pontiac division. When I worked in the body shop, about 2 weeks after I started working at Norwood, and I had to wear a long apron to keep the sparks from, hitting me and start my clothes on fire. And I was welding one night, and all of a sudden my apron just falls off to the floor. I turned around, somebody had cut the strings off the back of my apron. And turned around and seen a guy I had never seen before. And he stands there, he looks at me, he says, "How many holes do you have in your sheets?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "How many holes?" He said, "You have to have holes in your sheet so you can see through them when you have it over your head." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "I seen your car, it's got Tennessee license plates on it." Every weekend that we didn't have to work, I'd go to Knoxville. There's a church in Knoxville that I attended. People were really nice to me, and I just loved Tennessee. Loved East Tennessee, and every time we didn't have to work, I'd jump on my Harley and go down to Knoxville and spend the weekend. Then spend the weekend and go back to work, Monday night in Norwood. So if you're from Tennessee, I know you got to be in the Klan. And he hits me in the chest. So anyway, we got into a pretty good fight. Big crowd of people gathered around us. And our foreman, his nickname was Little Hitler. And he was a little short fella. And he kept jumping up and down trying to see who was fighting. And nobody would let him see what was going on. So after the fight ended, went back to my job. Of course, my clothes were all, messed up, and didn't have my apron on. My foreman comes up to me, he says, "Who was fighting out there, Johnson?" I'm like, "I didn't see anything. I don't know what you're talking about. Was there a fight?" But people would actually protect other union members, from, getting in trouble. And nobody ever would tell, the foreman what happened. And they actually had to shut the line down for a couple minutes. And boy, you don't want to shut the line down at GM. I mean, they claim they lose hundreds of thousands of dollars a minute, when that line's, not running. But that's really the only violence, and after that guy, left me alone. But there were a few odd people that worked at the plant that, had problems with other people. But pretty much all in all, everybody was sincere, and they tried to do a good job. They were very dedicated employees. Most everybody.
We could listen to Don tell stories for hours from his career with GM. He's become an amazing friend and has met up with us on more than one occasion to share stories from his time working inside the auto industry. So make sure to check back to Original Motor Car often to see more stories from Don pop up over time. And if you work in the auto industry and have stories of your own to share, shoot us an email at hello@originalmotorcar.com. We'd love to hear from you, and we might just feature you on the channel. These interviews come from a larger documentary project we're creating about the GM Norwood assembly plant that was in Norwood, Ohio. It was the birthplace of the Chevrolet Camaro and the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. It also happened to be the first expansion plant that GM built outside the state of Michigan, the first plant that produced cars for GM 24 hours a day, the first to use robotic welding. The list goes on and on. It's an important piece of history, and we're bringing that story out with your continued support. If you're interested in checking out more about that particular documentary project, go to norwoodlegends.com. And if that website ever changes or updates to a different URL, we'll put that in the description below. So if you liked this story, you'll love the next one. So go ahead and check out another video. We're adding more stories and automotive history mini-docs right here on Original Motor Car all the time. And most of all, thanks for watching.